It's fairly interesting to note that as we use our minds, they can work very differently. A fairly big study made with over 1,000 people playing basketball turned out an amazing result. There were three groups. One group who was taught to practice every single day, then come back after a month. The second group was told to practice, but only in their minds, without actually shooting the ball into the hoop. They were only supposed to visualize and train their mind as if they were practicing for that 1 hour every day. And the third group was told to do absolutely nothing. They started by actually shooting 10 shots into the hoops, and then they let a month pass. One group practiced physically every day shooting balls. The other group only practiced in their minds, and the third group did not practice at all. The results: the group who didn't practice didn't have any new results. The group who practiced every single day shooting the ball into the hoop increased their accuracy by 25%. So the third and final group then, what was their results? They increased their entire accuracy with 24%. So just 1% less without shooting a ball. Just imagine what you can achieve with your brain if you change the way you do that.
Way that our mind is and the way that we think governs everything.
Yeah.
So just like if you, I mean, you can, your mind is so flippin' powerful that we have a beautiful thing called the placebo effect, where your body can have cellular changes because you think it's going to work. Like they've done studies where they give people, you know, a sugar pill and the medicine, and they will have structural shifts. Their bodies will heal for nothing other than a sugar pill because their brain told them it was going to work. So in my mind, your mindset and what you're thinking, and not just what you're talking about, you're thinking, it's the subconscious stuff that's going on that you're trying to pretend, oh, I'm fine. Yeah, no.
I just see that meme of that dog in the burning room. You know what meme I'm talking about? There's a dog in a burning room. The entire room is burning, and he's sitting at a table with a coffee cup, and he says, "It's fine. It's all fine." That's what I mean when you say, "No, everything is awesome. It's going to be good." I see that dog, that meme.
Yeah, totally. Where people just, you know, they're saying one thing, but their brain is not on board with what they're saying, and it's just this complete mismatch.
Yeah.
Your mindset, everything.
Yeah, I think we are just so wired that way. Like when you say "How are you" to someone,
Yeah.
like nobody says like takes a pause and thinks actually how am I actually, right? Like everybody's like, yeah, I'm good, how are you? Like it's so automated, it's so like wired to just give like a response, and there's I think almost shame in not being okay, right? There's shame in being negative. So even if we are stuck in thought loops that are taking us like, you know, down, we don't accept it. And the problem is like when you don't accept how you feel, it's never going to go away, right? Feelings and negativity doesn't go away by just ignoring them. They just, you know, it's like a snowball. It just it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I think one of the things about like the positive mindset is accepting that you have a negative mindset or a negative thought or a negative emotion at that moment, and just be present with that, right? We are scared that other people are going to judge us for feeling or thinking a certain way, because actually we're judging ourselves. We're judging ourselves because we all think that, oh, we should always be positive, we should always be strong, we should never like break, right? So there's so much pressure to be positive, and that is not helping with us being positive, having a positive mindset. I think it's accepting our humanness. That is the first step, and accepting all parts of ourselves, all the emotions, all the thoughts, and really having this like childlike curiosity of like, what is this teaching me, what is this showing me, right? Being open to explore and understand yourself, and which is going to help you shift and change from like an identity level, right?
As I was growing up, I never, this will sound strange, but bear with me for a second. I never like when I was growing up, challenges was fun. You were supposed to overcome them, and that was kind of like a competition. How can we deal with whatever comes up, and how can we fix that? So to me, like concepts of anxiety never occurred at all as I was growing up. I never didn't understand the concept of that because what do you mean? Let's do this.
Yeah.
Being on stage doing this thing that people typically are afraid of is like, yeah, cool, let's do this, awesome. And when me and my wife met, she had kids before we met, and the oldest one, she had a rough time when she was growing up, and she introduced me to the concept of anxiety as a thing, right? Because she
Mhm.
struggled, and what struck me as incredibly interesting with this was the mindset that I had to come from. Because in my world, there wasn't a thing like anxiety. That didn't exist. That was something people made up. And obviously, she experienced something that I could not relate to. So, opening up my idea to understand that this is the power of the mind, right? Because she was not trying to feel bad. She was trying to cope with something. And it was just a matter of her mindset that ended up having her in that situation. When she kind of figured out how she worked and kind of worked with herself and that, most of that went away. And there's no shame in having like anxiety or being stressed. But to me, I don't know if it makes sense to anyone. Please stop me if I'm just rambling. But the idea that you can actually shift out of stuff as soon as you're aware of them and actually using them for your power. To me, that was a big thing, like a really big thing, and understanding that we can control it, like she did, because she did a hell of a job.
They actually did this great study on telling kids they were smart. So they had all these kids take this test, and they told half of them, "Wow, you worked really hard and you got this grade on this because of how hard you worked."
Yeah,
And they told the other half, "Wow, you're really smart. That's why you did so good, is you're smart."
yeah,
Then they gave the kids a chance to either retake that test or take a different test and see how they did.
yeah,
Every child who was told they worked hard wanted to take the harder test. Every child who was told they were smart wanted to take the same test again because they wanted to be smart. They
yeah,
didn't want to risk not feeling smart by taking a test they didn't know was going to work. But the
yeah,
kids that knew they were going to work hard, they didn't care. They were like, "Give me, I can work hard."
yeah,
So it's mindset is so much. It covers limiting beliefs, it covers fears, it covers, I mean, so much. So yeah, it's definitely definitely where the fear comes from. And things that can cause these fears and cause these limiting beliefs can be really minor situations. One time somebody can say something to you and it can hurt so bad that you're like,
yeah,
"Okay, I'm holding that,"
yeah,
because our lovely human brains do their best to never feel pain again. They have a painful experience and it goes, "Ah, don't ever let me go through that shit again. I am done." So if if you got ridiculed in public and now someone asks you to go be on stage, guess who's going to come up and be trying to get you to stop?
yeah,
It's that part. They're trying to protect you. They're not trying to hurt you. So it sounds like your daughter had all these painful experiences and she was just trying to prevent them from happening again,
yeah,
except that they're not happening anymore. And just because something sees, smells, feels, might be the same, your brain's going to then go into overdrive to protect you
yeah,
unless you can override it and you get in charge. So, yeah, the mindset is everything. It's
yeah,
everything. That's it. Episode over. No, sorry.
Yeah, and I think for me, embodiment and somatic healing is very important. Like it comes in so handy. Even with my son, like when we were talking about the kids too, like my son, like we were driving by a corner, in a little farther down in my neighborhood, and he was like, "Oh my god, this reminds me of something that I am like scared of." Like he drove down with his dad, and then he had like a scary experience after that. He was like, and I was like, "Wait, let's pause and take a break, take a breath." And I was like, just, like give yourself a hug. And like right now you're here and like you're
yeah,
safe. That's not what's going to happen. That's not where we're going. Right. It is not happening anymore. So even in those like micro moments, we can teach ourselves and our clients, our family, that you can talk to your mind and you can tell your mind like, First of all, without judgment, right? Like Kessa said, because this is protection. Thank you for trying to protect me.
Yeah.
And I got it.
Yeah.
In a parts work, it's like the self
Yeah.
protects all the parts. So as the self, it's your responsibility to talk to the part that's freaking out or like that's trying to keep you safe and say, hey, I get it. I get it. I let you get hurt before and I'm in charge now.
Yeah.
I will protect that other part so you don't have to, take on a different role and go into anxiety, right?
And I think it's so important. I think it's either it's Bob Proctor or it's Joe Dispenza or both of them, or
Mhm.
possibly almost every other person knows anything about mindset. Said, and I think it's such a wonderful thing to say. We can use our mind in so many different ways. We can either create what we want to create, or we can worry about what we don't want. And whatever one we choose, we get.
Yep.
And this is my objection, because I'm a firm believer, as someone who had most of my life going through life thinking that anything deeper than like going to church, thinking there's anything bigger, like God is a concept, it's not actually real. As soon as I kind of had my realization that there's something much bigger than me, this thing with affirmation, I almost immediately found an issue with people like trying to wish for things to happen in their life. And I ran into an issue with this because I don't think that you can just sit down and hope that things will happen, and that's magic gonna be there. And I want to share this because I have my 5 minute journal. Intelligent Change, by the way, fantastic company. And every day you write down your daily affirmation in this book, and I do this every day. So with that in mind, what I'm writing there is my intention, the intention I'm setting for myself. It doesn't have to be true in this moment, but I'm working to get there. And that's the way I think affirmation works. And please disagree with me if you have a different view on this. But really, there's so many people writing down like, yeah, I want to be rich, I want to fall in love, I want to go to
That's
Paris
not
or
an
whatever that is.
affirmation.
And that is not an affirmation to me.
No.
I want to go to Paris is a goal, and then we
Right.
can do stuff to go
Right.
to Paris. But I really think we need to decide, and we touched on this before in the podcast about where you want to go. You have to set that intention, and you kind of have to work on it. And to me, there's a difference between just writing it down and hoping it's going to happen and actually believing in it.
Oh yeah. Well, and there's even another step because you have to write it down, you have to believe it, you have to know it, which is
Yeah,
different than believing, right? I don't believe my parents are my parents. I know they are.
yeah,
um, right? So then it's taking the right actions,
yeah,
right? So it's all of that. You have to get that
yeah,
divinely inspired action. If I want to run a marathon, I'm going to need to work out. I'm going to need to find a coach to probably help me do that. Like
yeah,
there are things I'm going to need to do and take all those steps along the way
yeah,
to make sure that everything's getting done that you said you were going to do.
yeah,
I think we're always in conversation with the universe, with God, like whatever you believe in, right? So when you write down an affirmation and say, this is my intention,
yeah,
right? And then the response is like, okay, show me. And how do you show that that's your intention, right? Then you take action. You take action and you're like, here, I'm, like because proof, right?
yeah,
If you want to manifest something in the 3D world, even though, yes, we believe and we are having this conversation and connection, but if you want, like, you're not trying to create something ethereal. Like if your intention is to create something tangible, then you need to show the universe with your tangible actions that you actually want to do it, right? So someone I know, like, he was late, right, to any meeting. So this became a joke. Like if you were meeting at 2 p.m., we would tell him it's like at noon and whatever. So there was always this, like, we're making fun of it because he would be like 1.5 hours to 3 hours late to everything, and it just like was
Oh,
so frustrating. So, and you just cut those people out of your life, which is what I did. Honestly, I have no tolerance for that because when someone doesn't respect my time, or that means they're not respecting their time. And like I was thinking about that. And when you're late to things, I feel like you're just telling the universe that you don't want it. Like if you wanted it, you'll be there, right? Because all the other people are ready to do it with you, and you're just late, and you're telling the universe, I don't want it, I'm not ready for it, or I don't believe that I can have it, right? So always connecting with the belief and action, right? So there's so many facets to this manifestation, reaching your goals, and mindset. So it all comes together like a puzzle.
Yeah.
That
And
was a really. Oh, sorry. Go
oh,
ahead.
affirmations. I was going to challenge the affirmation just a little bit. So, affirmations are great for some people, not for everybody. For me, what happens when I say an affirmation is my truth meter goes off, and I'll make a statement and I hear bullshit. That's not that. No, that. And now I've got this. And that's a lot of that's my Libra rising. I'm a Libra rising, which means something comes, I'm going to bring the balance. I'm going to always bring the opposite and shift that. So I hear positive, my brain's like, no. So what we do is, or what I do is I do what's called an affirmation, where you take the affirmation and you flip it on its head and make it a question that your brain has to answer. So instead of I'm going to Paris, it's how am I capable of making it to Paris? How is it that
Mm.
I get to go to Paris? How is it that I feel confident getting on camera? Right? How is it that I can feel like my clients are waiting for me? Right? So when you ask that, then you're giving your brain the opportunity to go, oh, I know why. Right? So if you have an active brain that really likes to respond, give it the right thing to respond to. Because if you ask your brain, why am I so stupid and everybody hates me? You're going to get a long list. But if you say, why am I so smart and everybody loves me? Boom, you're going to get a list.
Yeah.
So use your brain and use that mindset, right, to your power. And
Yeah.
it's a way to flip that mindset.
I like that. I think that was a really powerful point, to shift that in, because that's sometimes hard for me as well. It's and I think it has to do with our brains, because our brains are designed to see problems and not finding like possibilities. And I think that's part of how we do stuff. I think it's in human nature to see the problems we have and then try to deal with them. Have you heard about the red car concept? Have you heard about that?
I don't think so.
I'll explain it for anyone who hasn't heard about it. When you drove into work this morning, how many red cars did you see?
Right. Not very many.
And people typically have no idea how many cars they saw. Maybe four,
No.
Yeah.
whatever. I don't know. But if I were to tell you before you went to work this morning that you get $1,000 for every red car you see, you would know there were 48 of them. And the last one was on the bridge over by the highway, and it was parked, and it was like you would know every single detail of it. And what this teaches us, at least teaches me, is that if I'm not looking for the things I want in my life, they're just going to pass me by, and I won't even notice. I won't even notice. And when things happen, because things will happen in life, things will be rough, there will be tough patches we go through. I think we have to then look at trying to find the possibilities we have to get out of that, because it's so easy for us to kind of dig into that. Now this is horrible, I have to file that tax report, or I have to do this, or that client is upset, or I can't do this, and my boss is horrible, and my wife wants a divorce, and the cat got run over this morning, everything sucks, I better just it's easy to find those things.
Oh yeah.
But it's so much harder to see. As the cat got run over, you actually met a new veterinary where you went to the cat, and eventually that's going to be your new husband or new wife or whatever that is. But in the moment, it's horrible, right? But how can we flip it into something positive? I think that's the most interesting piece. And that's the challenge. How do we
So
flip bad things, quote unquote, bad things, into positives? I think that's the challenge. If we can find a way to do that, I think we win.
So my main motto in life is I am in the right place at the right time, having the right experience,
Yeah.
no matter what. So that means if my cat just got run over, I don't understand the bigness of it.
Yeah.
I don't understand why it was exactly the moment that I needed, but it is.
Yeah.
So even when my world is falling apart, if I can find that belief and grab that and be like, okay, I am in the right place at the right time for the right reason. I just don't know what the hell it is.
Yeah.
But anchoring into that is how I personally
Yeah.
get through those times, because if I don't have that belief, then there's another reason, and now I'm making shit up. So, and that's where it gets into the problem. But why did this happen? Oh, now I'm off and running in a direction that usually means I did something wrong, I deserved it, I'm bad, I'm negative. So you don't want to go down that rabbit hole. So
Yeah.
that's how
I
I
like
say.
using Sorry, yeah. I like using language to reframe things. It's very, something that I like to do that works is like, on at least like a moment to moment level. The language, the words we say, they all have vibrations, and everything in this world is vibration. Like, there's now studies that show when hit a sound ball and you're holding your water next to it, you can create
Yeah.
these beautiful geometric shapes. Like, you can change the water, right? And we are 80% water,
Yeah.
right? So vibrations change us on a cellular level. And when we say something, everything we say casts a spell. That's why it's called spelling,
I was just going to say
right?
that.
So the words you use are very powerful.
Yeah.
So let's say I'm going through a breakup, right? Just an example. And I can say this. So let's feel into this energy. Oh my God, I'm always going to be abandoned. Like, I'm not pretty enough. I'm not good enough to be with someone like that. And, I am just going to die alone. I'm never going to find love. Or I can say, this is a second way of energy and wording it, right? Wow, like I learned so much in this relationship. I learned my strengths and weaknesses. I learned what I need, in a relationship, in a partner. This was such a powerful initiation, such a good mirror of what I need to work on myself so I can, have a different vibration and attract from that and really manifest the love of my life. Like, this is such a good opportunity, right? So it's just the words, it's the same thing. It matters how you tell your story, right? And especially if you're an entrepreneur, if you're putting yourself out there, right, it matters how you tell your story, because you can
Yeah.
tell the story of your whole life in from from that perspective, with those words, that energy, or like a positive, right? So if you want to create like a positive mindset and positive results and positive future, like, look at your life and how you see things in your life, in your present moment and in your past, and start by reframing them, so that as things come up, as challenging challenges come up, which they will, in life, business, relationship, in health, every area of your life, then you get in this habit. And it's a skill. You'll learn the skill of reframing, and it will change your life. It's so powerful.
One thing that I learned maybe, let's say 8 or 10 years ago, was one of the most powerful questions that I've come across, especially when things happen. I know we were supposed to talk about the power of positive mindsets, but I think this is what we're doing essentially, because most of the time things happen and then we have to shift into a positive mindset. At least that's how it works for me. I'm a positive person from the start, but sometimes stuff happens and that's where I need to shift into something else. And this question was probably the most powerful question I've ever heard, and it's so simple. Is this true?
Mhm.
And to me, that changed my life. Because all of the things that I thought were real, that person hates me now because I did this, or this happened because I'm this, or that happened because of what. The question, is this true? Most of the time, at least, helped me shift into the thinking part, because it takes me out of the emotional, the downward motion of being in a bad state of mind, or being dragged down to that negativity, and it puts me into the logical, the part of the brain that is focused on solving this, and it puts my thinking on instead of letting my emotions drag me down, and it puts me in that space where I have to think about it as, is this actually true then? But I've noticed that a lot of people have a really hard time using that phrase, because it's also really hard. You want to have the, like, everything is horrible, and I'm horrible, and this is bad, and all, and you kind of enjoy, you embrace that feeling of guilt or negativity or whatever that is. And you don't want to shift out of that. And I think we have to kind of shed that skin and embrace the positivity. And one way of doing that, to me at least, is asking if it's actually true.
Exactly. Yeah. Same thing. Like, when the breakup example, when this person breaks up with me, I can have this belief of like I am unlovable,
Yeah.
right? I am not worthy of love. And then when you ask, is this true? And it's like, no, it's not true. It was just not a good match, right?
So
So always like we attach meanings to events.
Yeah.
Things are gonna happen, and the same thing happens in all three of our lives. Like we can all have different meanings. We can put a different meaning to the same event,
Yeah.
and how we do that is from memory. From, we have proof in our life that things happen to us, and we created these beliefs, and that's how we put meanings on events or things that people say. So it's so important to literally rewire your subconscious mind, just unpack your belief system and dissect that and look at like, what are my beliefs? And every time you have like a negative mindset or a thought when something happens, let's say you fail at something small, don't make it a big thing and go to this belief of like, I'm a failure, I'm always gonna fail, right? That is so different than, oh, this didn't work, let me try it this other way.
And if you're not able to just change your mind, because mindset can be really difficult, because Joel, there are definitely times where if I had asked, is that true? My brain would have said, yes, it's very true.
Yeah.
Because of deep, deep wounding that was repeated issue. That same wounding repeated so many times that it was true to me. For me and my experience in this lifetime, my brain was like, fuck yeah, that's true. That is definitely true. That is so true. And then that was what was keeping me in the hole.
Yeah.
So you can do that. You can ask that. But if it's not working, find something else. That means you actually need to do deeper work. It means there was a few too many wounds to handle yourself. Get support. Find somebody that can help you go back and do some different kind of recovery rather than just mindset. And then the other side of this is sometimes mindset alone can actually is a band-aid. So I have clients that used mindset, that proudly used mindset, that was like, I have been changing my mind for 30 years. And now they're miserable because they only changed the mindset, which was like the surface. And so they're doing and they're doing, but inside they're beating themselves up. They're miserable. They feel like garbage. And they're now using all of those times that they had that positive attitude against themselves, because they're like, well, you had the positive attitude before. Oh, now you're broken. Now you're weak. Now you can't keep that positive mindset. And the answer is, you had something deeper that needed to be worked on, that mindset was bandaging.
Yeah.
So you were slapping the Band-Aid on going, I'm fine. My mindset's great. And inside you're just diminishing. You're withering away your self-esteem and that concept of who you are. Because when those actions stop and you can't look at the things you're doing, you have to look at who you are. So yes, positive mindset, and make sure that that positive mindset is coming from an honest place. Because if it's not, you're just gaslighting yourself and you're making yourself actually feel worse, not better. So yes, mindset in the right aligned way.
I
For those actions, right?
I see that dog again in the burning in the burning room. I think most of us know exactly that person we meet for Thanksgiving. That is like, yeah, everything is great. I just got divorced and the cat got run over and the car burned down. It's awesome. Everyone knows it's not. Can you please just accept that things suck at the moment? Deal with that and then move forward. No,
Yeah.
everything is, and we can't have that. So what I really like here is the fact that we have so fundamentally different skill sets, all three of us here, so we have these different perspectives on it, and it just blows my mind how interesting it is to listen to both of you as you share your thoughts and ideas, because it gives me at least a different dimension to the concept of mindset and using our brains, because it's slightly different and we have different ways to see it. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And that's where Olivia's, some of the more embodiment stuff can actually help the mindset, Because if you've had really painful experiences doing something and now I've changed my mind, and my mind's like, okay, great, this is safe. I can go get on stage. I'm not going to die. Nobody's going to hurt me. Nobody's going to make fun of me. I'm okay. But your body is still freaking out. You might be sweating and shaking, and your heart's palpitating, and you can't think and you can't focus. And now that adrenaline's moving into your brain and you're starting to lose. Like, if you don't have those tools to keep your body safe, the mindset only takes you so far,
Yeah.
right? So you get the mind, but that body is going to be actively changing your mind as you're going and can then halt your mindset. So getting the mind, having the right actions, getting the aligned right actions, having your mindset in the right place, and then having some tools to keep your body stable as you make all these new shifts and changes.
Yeah.
That's what really allows us to thrive, is we're getting we're helping people on every level of that. So
Yeah.
that's the benefit.
So if anyone is struggling trying to work on their mindset, do we have any tools, any suggestions, any tips that they can use right away?
Yeah. So Olivia said, and it's well, actually, I'm not going to say what she said. I say knowing you're in the right place at the right time, having the right experience, that everything is happening for you, no matter how painful, is a really great. And then the other one is, for me, when I get into a state of fear or negative thinking, I have to decide, I have to change my mind, and I have to tell myself, what do I want? If I'm not getting what I want, I have to, what do I want? Where do I want to go? And I have to stay focused on that. So those are my 2 tips.
I would say for me, like it's a lot about like creating safety and trust within your body. When something is happening, we go into fight, flight, freeze or mode. So just telling yourself that this is not an emergency, right? You're not dying, right? Because our nervous system freaks out and we want to fight or flight, or like we want to give up or we want to fight. Like it's just like we are not safe. Our body freaks out, like Kesta said. Just like taking a deep breath and telling yourself that this is not an emergency and I am safe, right? And walking away, removing yourself from that situation, maybe taking a walk, maybe jumping, like changing your environment, changing your energy, and telling yourself this is not an emergency. And then going to safety. I am safe. I'm here. I'm in my body. I'm alive. I'm breathing, right? And go to gratitude. Just like say 5 things, one thing, like anything that you're grateful for, because your brain cannot be grateful and scared at the same time, right? So you need to anchor in the gratitude. And then once your energy is shifted, take a break and come back and tackle it like a champion, right?
Yeah.
And one thing I want people to remember is that, we're going through challenges in life, of course, but most of the time this is true. You already overcame your biggest challenge in life.
Yeah.
And you didn't die. You survived, you're here, you're alive, and you're moving towards something so big, something that you couldn't even dream of maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So just remember that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys, for today. And I wish everyone a fantastic day, and we'll talk to you soon.